X-Pac 12360. Featuring weekly news, insider commentary, and interviews with superstars, past and present from the world of pro wrestling.
A new day is dawning for DX.
And now, your host, Sean X-Pac Waltman.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to X-Pac 12360. I'm your host, Sean X-Pac Waltman. A lot of stuff going on in the world of professional wrestling this week. Did I say wrestling? That's so lazy of me. It's wrestling. So, joining us, as usual, on the couch, we got Jimbo.
How you doing, Sean?
I'm doing great.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Sleeping Lou.
Yeah, Denise Salcedo. What's going on? Bill Handstock from Up Rocks. TK Trinidad from TMZ.
Hey.
Yeah. It's a lot going on, huh? Yeah.
Always.
I'm not sure what to talk about first. So I'll just, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to talk about this weekend. This weekend was the big event in New York City. It was held across the street from LaGuardia Airport. And it's kind of a tradition that started way back. And the first time that I went to a convention, a wrestling convention, it was amazing. And it was a guy named John Arezzi. He's the one that started all that. He used to be partners with Vince Russo. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about? Or are you familiar with the name at all?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the name.
Partners with Vince Russo?
Yeah, they used to have a radio show in the New York City market. But that's a whole nother story. But the thing is John is the one that pioneered the whole wrestling convention thing in general. It was amazing. That's where I got to meet Bruno Sammartino, like a lot of these guys, like Lou Thesz. I mean, anyways, the reason why I'm saying that is because, like, all these years later, and that was in '91, the first one I went to. All these years later, it's still being done, like, right there across the street from LaGuardia, and it was really cool, and it was huge.
Yeah.
Every year, it's a huge event. Shawn Michaels was the headliner this year. He always does well.
Yeah.
Wherever, and he had damn sure better if you knew how much money he charged.
Oh man, well, I know tickets to get him to sign or pictures aren't cheap, so
right.
Yeah, they definitely gotta balance that out.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he has a ridiculous line.
It was. It's worth it. It's not one of those things like there's somebody else was just brought in, and I'm not going to name his name, but a very big star that was in a big match at WrestleMania this past year, was brought out to a big event, and well, not the big event, but a big event on the East Coast, and the promoter lost their ass on this guy because he just charged, like $50,000 to bring this guy in, and yeah, I just don't understand how anyone
better be selling a lot of pre-sale tickets.
Yeah, it's just insane. So but Sean, he whenever they bring him anywhere, he always does well for the people bringing him in.
Yeah, I'm sure.
If they do their job. So, anyways, the cool thing was I got to spend time with Road Dogg and Billy Gunn.
Oh, wow.
We did, we signed right next to each other, so we did combos at the end of the day where people lined. There was more people for combos than there were for any of us separately, you know?
Well, I'm sure. Why not?
Yeah.
Pay the extra couple bucks and just have all of you together.
Yeah, it was, I was just downstairs walking Lou, and then all of a sudden Brian comes down, Road Dogg, and he's like, I saw you from my window, and I was trying to yell out the window, but I couldn't, so I had to run downstairs. So we had breakfast together, Lou and myself and Road Dogg, and we caught up on a lot of things.
That's awesome.
And it was fantastic. I got to see, and Scott was there, Scott Hall, but he was on the other side of the building, so I only saw him briefly. Saw Ted DiBiase, whose
documentary came
documentary
out
just came out. Crazy that his documentary came out on the same day that 30 for 30 came out, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Don't understand the timing of that one. I think it might have been just,
coincidence.
I think it's just when Fathom Events had the day available to run.
because it was just a one-time. It was a special event.
Yeah.
You could only go see it in theaters on that one day. And Fathom Events does stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So I think it's just, and also because they had that date locked in for a long time, and the Ric Flair 30 for 30 day kept moving all around.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was anything targeted.
No, it's a shame.
Yeah.
I think because it might have affected. I think they may, if you're gonna choose, okay, I could leave the house and go see, the Ted DiBiase doc, or I could stay home and watch the 30 for 30. You hate to give people that option.
Yeah,
That's
but, I
all.
mean, I think it shouldn't, in theory, it shouldn't have hurt it too much because you can DVR the 30 for 30.
Yeah.
You can go. I mean, they weren't even at the same time necessarily.
Sure, and the thing about Ted's documentary is it has a spiritual message, a Christian message to it. Well, obviously because Ted's a minister, and that there's a whole that fan base is pretty built in, and they're gonna show up, whether there's a blizzard out or not.
I heard from George Hermosa, who went and saw it last night, that you make quite a cameo in there. Like you're in it quite.
I can imagine. Yeah, and a lot has happened since that footage was shot. That was like 8 years ago.
Really?
Maybe long. Yeah,
Wow.
about 8 years ago. Maybe a little less, but I was still wandering around in the darkness.
Okay.
At that time, I remember doing some of the footage for that doc while I was sitting at Ted's son Brett's house in Tampa. When Brett was still at Developmental, it was still called FCW. That's how long ago this was. I remember passing out on the couch in the middle of doing it, because I was still taking pills. So, yeah, that's how long ago that was.
So do you not want to see something like this because you're afraid to see yourself like that?
That's a good question, Jimbo. And I don't like seeing things like that, but I think it's important to go back and look at them and see how you were, so you never go back there again. You know what I mean?
Growth, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. So, there's a lot of there's some shoot interview stuff that, and I don't blame the people that make the shoot interviews. I blame myself. You go back and I would never want to go back and watch some of that stuff. Some of the things that were said. Not that any of it wasn't true, but just things that didn't need to be said or need to be said like that. Then you're high, pilled up, drunk, whatever, or all three, and you say things, and you can't take them back. So,
But
anyway,
you can move forward and grow, which you've done.
correct.
Awesome.
Yeah, you're right, Jimbo.
Has Rick always been, as long as you've known Rick, because you've known him a long time, has he always been completely unapologetic and upfront about who he is and the way he is, what he is?
The Nature Boy?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I think that, people who watch documentaries and wrestling documentaries and 30 for 30s, there's a lot of, and even going back to behind the music and stuff, there's a lot of these tragedy, sad stories about wasting your life or ruining your kids' lives or all sorts of stuff, and it's usually that stuff happens at the end, and people are very they're sobbing, they're remorseful, they feel horrible about what they've done. The really striking thing about this documentary was pretty much right up front, Flair, smiling, not crying, just said, I just wanted to be the Nature Boy, and that's who I was, and I wasn't there for my kids, and I did horrible things to my body and to myself and to my life, but that's just what it was. And it was just, that's not the normal sort of thing you see in these documentaries.
Yeah, and first, just to go back to what you're saying about him being the Nature Boy, no one on this earth has ever been a more authentic version. That is really the Nature Boy Ric Flair. There is no Ric Flair, Richard Flair. Sorry, there hasn't been for a long, long time.
Right.
and that I just, it's weird, it's crazy, like, you know, I it's part of it. You don't. It seems like there's no regrets there, and then obviously there are, right? Like,
Right.
it's almost like you disassociate. You have to disassociate a little bit from a lot of that.
So when's the
I'm
last?
speaking for myself here
Sure.
too, because a lot of that stuff really hit close to home.
But
when
a
you
big-
start getting towards the children, when Megan and you know, when David and when they spoke on there, that was heartbreaking, man. Especially with how it affected David.
Sure. And I mean, and that's also a function of your profession.
Yeah.
Is you have to disassociate, like it's your job to disassociate your actual who you are as a human being from the persona that you're putting forward to people. That's your job.
It's just such a selfish thing, man. It's about the most selfish thing in the world.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm speaking for myself too. You know, everything takes a back seat to professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Your kids, your wife, everything.
Do you know anybody who's been able to do a good balance of it? Because you're on the road for a long period of time. Have you seen anybody that was, you know, they're still there for their kids, that they actually managed to do both, the best of both worlds, or is it just?
There are, and it's the thing is, it just takes an extraordinary amount of work.
I think a good example of that for you, it would be Chris Jericho, actually.
Yes.
He's one of those guys that you've never heard any rumors about him maybe being with other women. You know, he's been with his wife for such a long time. He has his kids. He's, you know, doing all of that stuff, but yet also doing all this other stuff. And I think I was thinking about that the other day, how he's one of those people that actually has that good balance with career and with family. Now, going back to what Bill said about Ric Flair, which what I thought was cool about this documentary particularly was that Rick was living the life, man, right? Everybody, like, even like Snoop Dogg said, like, rappers wanted to be like him.
That's
like,
right.
that's what he was. However, one of the cool things that we got to see, even though he was so unapologetic, was if you kind of look in between the lines, you see that he was trying to fill a void. Like, the interviewer asked him, you know, why didn't you just go home and watch TV instead of going out with women or whatever else you were doing? And he said, I wasn't going to spend the night alone. There was no way. And that line just hit me completely, where I was like, this is incredible that he is able to open himself up like that. And even though he's being unapologetic about what he did to his first wife, he was still being honest about how this affected him. And I thought that was that was so impactful.
It really speaks. It really says something about you when you can't spend time alone with yourself. It really speaks to what you think of yourself and how much you actually do or don't love yourself.
Well,
Because I've been there, and there was a time when, and a lot of my friends are still like this. They just cannot handle being alone. And you know something, I'm by myself all the time, and I don't feel alone. I don't feel lonely. And,
Lula.
before Lula came along, you know, I had already gotten good with dating myself. You know, and it's really important that that we be able to sit in a hotel room with ourselves and not go crazy because we can't. You know what I mean? Like I these days, there was a time when I was like that. You know, everything was about let's go out and, like, you know, because I had been there. I was, you know, I wasn't real comfortable being with myself. And now, and it's not just because you get older, it's because I really enjoy just going back to my room, chilling out, taking a bath, maybe, you know, tugging on a J, and just relaxing, you know, catching up on things I need to catch up on, and not feel like I'm missing out on something if I'm not out, you know, running around.
When was the last time that you would say that you've had an in-depth conversation with Ric Flair, or has that ever happened?
It depends. I mean, one-on-one.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's ever been a situation where Rick and I have had like a long, like, one-on-one conversation. It's always just been like 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, you know.
Yeah.
And why do you ask?
Well, I'm just curious because I know that you and Rick have a very long history, like from, you know, you looking up to him as a wrestler and he being one of the people that got you into wrestling as a fan, to having personal problems with him when you were in WCW, to, you know, you guys have been in the same circles forever, in the same business. You're both icons. But
I would not put my like, come on, man. I appreciate that, but let's not be ridiculous.
And I wasn't trying to blow smoke up your ass. I'm just saying, like, you and Ric Flair have coexisted in the same companies for so long, and it's not like, you know, when people see, you know, Joey Abs on the street, they're not gonna say like, Joey Abs, you know, what's up? They say X-Pac. Oh my God! Like,
speaking of Joey Abs, we have Pete.
Exactly.
God, I always forget to do this at the top of the show. We have Pete Gas coming up on the show later. So yeah, go ahead.
But I just, because knowing you as a person, you have such a handle on, well, not a handle, but you have a really good perspective on what it was to live that life, to go through stuff, and to be okay with yourself.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's probably a good conversation that you could have with the guy, despite all of your past history and everything and whatever. I was just curious as to, like, have you guys ever talked about life?
Well, we talked about things like, I remember, like, okay, the, you know, the time that Hunter was talking about on 30 for 30, where, you know, he made Rick go get some help. You know, Rick talked to me about that time, and he talked to me about how, like, the experience of actually going to place, and, you know, how they try to humble you. And, you know, like, trying to get Ric Flair to go out and wash cars and stuff, like, you know, I mean, as part of their things they do, I just wasn't happening.
Let me ask you another quick question. So
the people are going, wondering, what's he talking about washing cars? It's there are things that you do when you're in, like, you know, therapy and rehab or whatever the case is, whatever you want to call it, someplace to get help, where, you know, where you do these things that are just, they seem like menial tasks, or there's a reason for doing these things.
Like Mr.
You know,
Miyagi, wax on, wax
it's
off.
more of just, it's more of humbling yourself and getting grounded, like, you know, getting your feet planted back on the ground.
Yeah, Mr. Flair, go wash this car. It's like, excuse me?
Exactly.
Like, I pay people to wash my
Exactly.
cars.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
So,
No,
you know,
sir, go wash this car.
that's the thing, is there are things like that will prevent somebody from getting better.
Sure.
But is there a point, because you were talking about, like, being alone and all this other stuff, and I think the thing about that is people have to come to that realization why they don't like being alone, and there's people in the world who don't come to that realization. They're kind of always spinning in that circle. So what kind of was your point where it's just like, this is the end of the party life and I'm okay with being alone, and what was kind of the point that helped you to get to that, like, I'm okay with being alone, I'm okay with not doing the drugs, I'm not okay with all that?
I wish I could tell you. I wished it would make things easier for, you know, for other people maybe, but I can't sit and put a finger and pinpoint where that happened and what it was. It wasn't like I had some epiphany. Like my you know, my progress has been very long, drawn out process. It's not like I just had this epiphany and everything was, you know, the clouds parted and, you know, and happy days ahead. It was a lot of, you know, cloudy with, you know, chance of rain every day for a long time. So I can't personally, you know, answer that.
But
I wish I could.
I've seen you have a lot of good conversations with people about life and about the business and everything else, and addiction.
Yeah.
And we've all watched your 2 awesome Table for 3 episodes. But my question for you is, if you could pick anybody from pro wrestling to do a Table for 3 with at this point, after having done one with Scott and Kev, and after having done one with DDP and Scott, like, who would be the other 2 people that you would pick to sit down with and just
Oh man, wow. Bill, come in with the
I had some weeks off. I had to.
Who would be your top 5 in your rap cycle?
Yeah.
Top of that.
Any person living or dead.
Wow.
I want to see
The
Sean
rap
Cypher.
I don't even. Man, Bill.
You can get back to me next week.
Please. I will. I'm going to think about that.
All right, great.
I'm going to think about that. Yeah. So, yeah, there was some things, and okay, Rory Karp, what an amazing job he did on this thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Amazing. And he outdid himself because he's done some excellent stuff in the past. And I'm not a huge football fan by any means, but Book of Manning, what an amazing piece of work that was. And also Coach Snoop. So, yeah, good, excellent job by Rory Karp. And did anyone... was anyone bothered by the animation stuff? Because I liked it.
I loved
No,
it.
I
No,
loved it. I was even gonna give
Yeah.
props. I love the drawing. I especially love the one where they drew Jim Ross when they were sitting at the bar. I thought
Yeah.
that was really funny. I was like, I
They-
need to tweet out credit to whoever did that
No,
part.
the animation was amazing, and it was also
Looked like something the gorillas.
perfect because, like, when he was dancing on the bar in that Jim Ross story, they animated Ric Flair like dancing like Ric Flair would dance.
Yeah.
They didn't just like do a stock thing.
Yeah.
And then on the plane story, like as soon as they started the scene setting, I was like, there's One Man Gang, there's Road Warrior
Yeah.
Hawk. Like they didn't just like draw random people. Like
Yep.
they actually animated this stuff.
Sure. Well, you know, like it's not. I'm not speaking out of school, obviously, because they talked about it on the special. Rick loved to show everyone his ding dong.
That was
I
my favorite
loved it.
part when Sting was telling
Yeah.
the story
Yeah.
about and they showed it on the airplane in a drawing. It was
Oh,
visual
no, I
enough.
mean, the
Sting
plane
just
ride
talking
from
about
hell.
how many times he's seen Ric Flair's penis.
Yeah, and the
This is
plane ride from
dirty.
hell, like he comes walking out of the bathroom in just his robe, strutting down the aisle. With his
They didn't
ding-a-ling.
talk about that plane ride.
No, they didn't.
We were all because I was following some other people who were also live tweeting it.
Yeah.
And as soon as that plane ride story happened, like I saw 6 people being like, "They're going to talk about the other plane ride."
No.
Nope.
I got an idea who I'd like on your table for 3.
What? Who?
You, Jerry Lynn, and AJ Styles.
Okay. I saw Jerry Lynn.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to talk to him much.
Mr. JL.
Yeah, yeah. He was in a different room than I was at the big event, but I did see a picture of him with a lot of the ECW alum. New Jack, I saw New Jack.
Oh, wow.
It's good to see him.
Gotta
Gotta
get
get
you
him
Jack
on
on
the
the show.
Yeah. Wow.
That'd be great.
Was One Man Gang there?
I didn't see One Man.
'Cause he's usually at those. That'd be another guy. It'd be cool to get on.
I
that.
wonder how he's doing since everything with the was it the hurricane that he lost all his stuff?
Yes.
Okay. I wonder how he's doing if he's getting back on his feet.
So I know there's things I'm missing about the 30 for 30.
They had a bunch of incredible guests, though. Seriously, like a lot of the people that came out was just like, "Wow, yay! I'm so happy to hear this." And they had a nice balance too, I think.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
So there were a few comments that I made that kind of got taken off into another direction when Greg Gagne was talking about the guys taking 1,000 bumps.
That was
is
my
a
favorite tweet of
bunch
the night.
Bullshit. Oh my God. I didn't mean to focus on that, but it's just like, do you know how long that would take to do 1,000 bumps if you did them consecutively? Like 10 hours. Like 7 to 10 hours. It's just insane. I mean, that's at like 5 to 10 seconds each bump.
Yeah.
I mean, if you do.
Well,
I
also,
mean, that's being. I mean, if you can even do it.
well, like Ron Jeremy shot holes in Flair's claim that he's slept with 10,000 women.
Well, the thing is I'm sure we don't know how many. Rick has no idea how many people how many women he slept with, but I'm going to say it's at least thousands. Several
Yeah,
thousand.
no, I'll go with thousands.
Yes.
Sure.
So I mean, I don't have as huge a problem with that, like, as some other people, because it's something like it's probably half that.
Also, if we're talking about Ric Flair, like you want to believe Ric Flair's had sex with
Yeah.
10,000 women.
And he probably believes it.
Space Mountain.
Yeah. Hey, oldest ride in the
Waist
park.
down, waist down,
Longest
completely
line.
Hey,
no.
oldest ride in the park, longest line. I think I heard him say that a few times.
Wow.
We just recapped an old episode of NWA
Yeah.
WCW where he made sure to specify the line for Space Mountain is 18 and over.
And there was always you know what? Rick had a saying: "No hair, no flair." That's a shoot too. Anyone that knows it will tell you I'm telling the truth on that.
Wow.
What? Wow.
Nothing.
What?
You signed up for
He's
this.
old
TK, you
school.
got any news?
So, anyways, I could talk about that piece all day. Is there anything we're missing before we move on concerning
I
this?
mean, it was a good documentary, and they're working on an Andre one, and they're also working on Andre doc for HBO as well with Bill Simmons. So there's some good wrestling documentaries coming down the pipe, along with Ted's, which is I enjoyed a lot.
So you actually saw Ted's?
I got a screener of it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Bill over here.
Somebody actually said, "Oh, I didn't know you were a man of God." Is that the conclusion you came to with seeing that with me?
No.
Okay, I don't know why that person said that. Because I was speaking at a church.
Yeah.
Can you believe I was? Did they show me actually at a church speaking at the
with your do-rag
from
on? Yeah.
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 Yeah, I saw that clip in the trailer.
Yeah.
Do you know what I was saying in that too? Did they play any of what I was saying?
Yeah, they played.
I was basically roasting guys. Like, hey, there's Virgil. I can't tell you what he's most known for.
In the church?
Yeah.
Well, actually, we asked when we talked to Ted on the with Spandex podcast, we asked him to explain Virgil to us.
Yeah.
He had a great quote where he said the nicest way he could describe it is that elevator doesn't go all the way to the top floor.
Yeah. He said that in a few interviews. Yeah.
But yeah, no, they basically just focused on what you were saying about Ted in the movie.
So do you know if yesterday was the only place it was getting shown actually in theaters, and now it's done?
Yeah, it was a one-night event for Fathom. I mean, they might do it like Fathom's been known to do like encore performances and stuff and bring it back, but it's going to be everywhere on VOD and DVD. You can pick it up. So.
I hope it does well. I really do, and it's been a long time in the making.
It did. I mean, it's obviously a documentary with evangelical people behind it, but it threads the needle that's very hard to thread in that it's a movie, like it's a Christian movie that's not like at the end.
It
like,
doesn't go super
yeah,
cheesy.
it's not trying to convert you at the end.
Right.
It's a Christian movie where it's basically just here's my life as a pro wrestler. Here's all the mistakes I made. And I am a Christian, and my family are very strong Christians. So that's basically what it is. It's just a documentary about people who happen to be Christian.
Yeah.
Which is cool. You know what I don't like, and I'm not a fan of, and I've been at some of these. I actually one that Russo did called Ring of Glory, where you show up to the wrestling show, and then they get you in there, and they kind of lock you in, and then they witness to you and try to
What?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's
yeah.
bullshit.
So it's
I'm
like,
sorry.
like the power team kind of thing, but like in a wrestling show.
Yeah, and then
atmosphere.
then once you're in there, and then they try to convert, try to save you.
But it's not just for wrestling shows. Like churches do that all the time.
No, wait a minute now. It depends on what church you.
I'm not saying all churches.
What church you go to, and
there are churches that do. There are many churches.
I just
that
don't
do
like
this sort
that
of
bait
thing.
and switch tactic.
Sure.
yeah,
At all.
no, because if you go to certain churches, you go there and they ask they've come a long way where you feel like you're put in like a position where you have to raise your hand or have to come to that. Now it's kind of like if you feel the spirit, then you.
Well,
can
that's
go there.
just,
It's
like
one of those
again,
options.
it's church by church.
Yeah.
There are a lot like I grew up in the church.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of my youth in churches, and there's a lot of churches that are like, oh hey, come to this raffle, come to this dance, come to this like fun concert.
Yeah.
And then they're like, all right, we're gonna worship to you now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we kind of accidentally locked the doors.
Yeah.
So you can't get out. And there's chains on the doors.
Oh my gosh, it's terrible.
Well, I'm
That's not
exaggerating.
supposed to be doing
Well,
that.
there's church for all types of people, and every taste and flavor you can want. There's a church for you.
Oh,
So if you're into that, do it.
Definitely not the bait and switch. That's never cool.
No, we don't.
Some people
do that.
love it.
Some people love it.
Because 95% of the people who go to that stuff are members of that church.
Right.
So they're like, yeah.
Yeah,
But
well,
So they're
you're-
not being
But you're,
baited and
yeah,
switched.
you're not being baited. You're
because
being
they're
preached the
already
same
part of the
gospel
crew.
that you've heard already.
So they end up converting people.
They
It
do.
works. Like
They
you
do. That's because I've sat and watched it, and it might not stick, but at the moment, those people are raising their hand and they're getting up and they're being saved.
This is where I normally start talking about Scientology, but we don't have to.
Hallelujah. Anyways, hey, but there's other news, in pro wrestling because Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho are going to be battling
Yeah.
January 4th, the Tokyo Dome,
Did
baby.
you see this one coming, Sean?
Yes, I just didn't necessarily see it as
WrestleMania?
Tokyo Dome.
Yeah.
Me either.
Did you think it was going to happen on the cruise?
I thought, yeah. I
Or
thought they'd save it for the
on the
cruise.
cruise, or maybe on their the next North American shows.
Oh, the New Japan returns
Yeah.
to Long Beach in March.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
2 weeks before.
That's another person. I saw
Yeah.
George Carroll, and George Carroll is the director of, I don't know what they call it, North American Operation. Anyways, he's kind of one of the bosses over here for New Japan.
So Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho, they were kind of doing some Twitter beef, and it turns out that they're going to be having that match. Do you think WWE has an issue with that, or we were discussing before that maybe there's something else happening that we are not privy to?
No, I'm sure that they're not happy about it. And at the same time, I don't think there's anything going on under the surface that, okay, Vince is behind this, Vince is doing this or that. It's just people getting wound up and coming up with conspiracy theories.
So it's not gonna be one of those things where they're like upset at him and then he tries to come back and they're like, yeah, we're not feeling you.
No, they're not. I'm sure they're not happy, but Chris will be back in WWE. Come on, don't be silly.
Well, I don't know. It just feels like.
No, I understand what you're saying.
So do you think he spoke to WWE first and said, hey, this is what, not to ask them for permission, but just so you guys know before the news breaks? Do you think he did that at least?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Well.
No, nor should he have.
Better to ask for forgiveness.
No, it's not even it at all. His contract was done. He was on to different business, and no, I don't think that would have been a smart thing, because it would have taken, it could have possibly taken away from the surprise.
Yeah.
Which was a big deal. The surprise, the shock factor was really big for this. And anyone could try to downplay this as not as big a deal as it is, but it is a big deal. And it's I'm happy that things like this can be done outside of WWE. Big things like this.
For sure.
That's a great part about social media. One of the good things.
Yeah.
Few of those guys.
I saw some people, because wrestling fans are never happy. I saw some people talking about how they felt like Jericho was probably going to phone it in, but I don't think he's going to phone anything.
No.
I think what is going to happen is, since Kenny Omega is like probably the best wrestler in the world right now, or one of them, if not the best, maybe AJ Styles, but Kenny Omega is definitely the top three. But I think that since Kenny Omega wrestles that New Japan style that's so crazy right now, and Chris Jericho has spent the past 20 years being like main event, top of the hill guy in WWE style for the past 20 years. Like, we all saw Jericho versus Neville in Beast from the East in Tokyo, and that match was amazing. Everyone loved that match. He didn't phone a thing in. He loved being in Japan. I think it's going to be like that, but I think that people are going to try and say Jericho didn't give his best effort just because he's not going to wrestle a New Japan style match.
Whatever. Let him say it.
We can't
Let him
make
say it.
everybody happy.
I also heard.
You can't make anybody happy.
It's true. On social media, yeah.
I also saw tweets from Chris Cruz. You remember Chris Cruz, old WCW announcer, complaining about like those guys shooting an angle on social media. How fans are more sophisticated now, and you don't like it. A lot of people did like it.
Yeah.
I personally totally disagree with that sentiment. I think they did just fine on how they did that, and I think that people like to still be worked and fooled and tricked once in a while,
Yeah, you definitely sometimes don't want to expect something and for it to happen. You want to be like surprised, like, oh, this is something different. So yeah.
There at certain things it's great. It's great to be able to see coming a mile away, and some things it's great to be surprised.
Do you want to hear some other things that we didn't see coming a mile away?
Yeah.
So there can be only one Brother Love. So Puff Daddy on his 48th birthday, he announced that his new name is going to be Brother Love. And just in case you guys don't know, Puff Daddy has changed his name a million times. P. Diddy, Sean Puffy Combs, Puff Daddy, etc. So he's changed his name to Brother Love for the reason being that he wants to spread love throughout the world. There is a huge backlash on social media. In particular, Bruce Pritchard said there can only be one Brother Love, and that is him. So funny thing is, we actually talked about this on TMZ yesterday. We called Bruce, and he pretty much said that he is going to. There's Puff Daddy later on said he's no longer going to be using Brother Love anymore. I think it's because of social media. And Bruce said if he tried to get the name again, he would whip his ass.
He would whip his ass.
Yeah. Harvey was so baiting him. This was just hilarious, but yeah.
Like any of that backlash can't be serious though. Like come on, we all have to be joking, right? Like. I mean, everyone involved, even Diddy.
Yeah.
Come on.
I think he didn't realize.
This is all in fun. Like,
It's-
nobody can really be upset by any of this shit.
I think he just didn't realize, like, you know, like, say for instance you were to say something about like Beyonce, the Beehive would come after you. I don't think I didn't think Diddy realized that he was stepping into something that's very sacred for a lot of folks, and the whole WWE or wrestling universe, or wrestlers in particular, they came after him, and he's like, oh, I didn't.
But yeah,
know.
because it just shows that he's kind of, I guess, living in a bubble. And the way I see it is, you just don't. I mean, yeah, he changes his name, blah 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 blah. But the point is, you just can't like change your name and then not do any research on it. That's my problem. Like, didn't you go? You're like, come on, you're gonna
search.
Yeah, you're creating a new website. You're telling me you're not gonna go and check
but
to
he
see
didn't
if somebody
change-
else
yeah.
has it. But it's stuff like that. You should probably check in advance.
Well,
is
one
what
of
I'm
those
saying.
things too, because brother. So in the church, like brother so and so or brother love or brother whatever, that's kind of common. So I guess it wasn't those things where he's like, I'm gonna change my name to something out
Let me
of the
see whose
ordinary.
name I can steal today.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it was just more on the ignorant side of things. Like he didn't, because you know you have like Sister Watson and brother, like that's kind of very common in like, I don't know about white church, but very common in the black church. So it's like he just maybe just put the two together and figured that's what he was going with, and he didn't realize. Again,
Maybe he figured Pritchard was appropriating from the black church and he was just taking it back.
I was thinking about that today when I saw it, and I just realized it's more of a southern thing as far as
Yeah.
churches. So it doesn't even matter, because I was like, wait a minute, that's like a lot like pastor back in the day. But I think it's just definitely a southern twang to it.
I was
so.
kidding about that, by the way.
You think you saw Kofi Kingston dressed up like Brother Love on SmackDown? I was like, hey, that's a good
Did you see
idea.
Did you see his like little video he did about it? I thought it was funny.
Was that
I
him
think
really
that
wearing the
shit's funny.
Brother Love shirt, or did someone just Photoshop that? Has anyone
It's
seen that?
Photoshop.
Oh, okay. I thought that was great. I'm like, wow, he's already got the T-shirt
Yeah.
and everything.
Oh, boy.
Hilarious.
Well,
Hey, were you gonna say something, TK? Were you gonna like transition into something else over there?
what do you want to say? I like that last transition. That was pretty good,
It
actually.
was pretty
I
good.
really like that
I was
one.
waiting for that 1, 2, 3. But,
Sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't.
well, if we did if we structured our show a little bit better, the booth might know and didn't do it. Or, anyways,
It's your world.
hey, I want to congratulate AJ Styles, new WWE champ over in England. Where was it?
In
Manchester.
Manchester.
I thought it was at SmackDown.
SmackDown was in Manchester.
They did. They did
They're both
Manchester
there.
2 nights in a row. Wow. All right. Well, I didn't see it.
Those fans are hungry. You got to think, when they fly out here for Mania, all those fans stay for Raw, and that's why Raw after Mania has been so wild and crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, why not run Manchester twice?
Well, also,
I know why.
The
I'm sorry.
the last time that they were in UK was right after the bombing, so they had to move the show from Manchester.
Okay.
Did anyone think that the crowd was kind of dead, or was it
For a
just
UK
not
crowd,
right?
yeah. I didn't
Yeah.
think they were chanting as much as they normally would.
Well, they're
Yeah.
saying that the numbers were low. That's probably why
And
that
that-
affected that.
When Pete Dunne came out, they came unglued.
That was so awesome.
So they were there. They were ready to get excited about something.
Yeah.
It's just they weren't excited about much, for some reason.
They went nuts for the Styles Mahal match because it was
Yeah.
amazing. Such a
It
good
was
match.
really good.
I wish I would have saw it.
Now
Damn.
Styles
was
versus Lesnar,
Yeah.
which is going to be insane.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I know that some people are going, how's that match going to work?
It's gonna work great.
what's
AJ
Lesnar gonna?
Styles,
Not
he's
gonna work.
super
Awesome.
great at having matches with bigger guys because he's just one of those guys that can, work somebody else's style and just like make them look great. So I think this is gonna be awesome. And I mean, I was a little surprised. When I first found out that AJ won, I was like, wait, what on SmackDown? Wait, what is going on here? I mean, yeah, I'm obviously more excited, looking forward to this, but it was very interesting to me how this all played out, and it makes people wonder, like, when was this decision made, considering that we were all thinking it was going to be Jinder versus Brock, and now it's Brock versus AJ. So you have to wonder, like, what went on? Was this always a plan, or was this not always a plan for this to happen? And I think people are saying, like, obviously this wasn't the plan. So now you're wondering what is going to happen, and are we really going to see AJ versus Brock at Survivor Series? Because I don't know. It's just
I
it's
just
crazy.
hope that if that happens, that it's a better showing for AJ than Braun had.
Yeah.
And
I think it was always the plan.
Yeah, because you get surprised. Like it's like you
bait and switch?
Yeah, it's a bait and switch. It's like, okay, we
lock
have
the doors.
Yeah, you're expecting one thing to go in, and we still have like a week and a half to go, and now it's something totally different.
I think that everything that they've done with Jinder Mahal has been awesome. because they always know exactly what they're doing, and setting up this supposed dream match between Mahal and Lesnar, they knew that was going to piss people off, and they let it piss them off and piss them off and piss them off, so that they get even more excited about Styles being the guy to be the champ again and to be the one to take on Lesnar. So that's a real dream match with shorter notice, so you have less time to pick it apart and you have more time to be excited about it.
And tons of tickets are flying off the shelves.
I don't think that was planned. I don't think that was planned that far in advance. I think that might have been a change of plans type of situation.
Well, because people noted that on a lot of the advertising at one point, a lot of the advertising for the India tour, Mahal was referred to as a 2-time WWE champion. So there was at least some thought about, hey, we can take the title off him for a little while, get it back on him before we head to India in December.
Yeah. Huh. You know what the thing is about that is I would have Mahal, like if he's going to do that, I would have him win it in India.
Yeah, that's.
Oh my gosh,
That would be
crazy.
incredible.
Yeah, that's how you do that.
And then have Styles take it back at the Rumble or whatever.
Yeah. So, well, I guess there's other things we could talk about, but I can't think of what they'd be. So I'm pretty sure we're going to take a break right now, and then we're going to come back with Pete Gas.
What's up, party people? Roxy Stryer here from The Tomorrow Show with Keven Undergaro. We're your twice-weekly broadcast of one man's midlife crisis and the mad millennials in Star Trek uniforms that follow him.
And I'm one of those millennials, Lauren Magrasso here. We've had some amazing guests like Russell Simmons, Ileana Douglas, and Craig Gass. Coolio, right?
Christian Blatt in the house to tell you to go to thetomorrowshow.com to check us out. We're live every Monday and Thursday from 10 to midnight Eastern. That's thetomorrowshow.com. Be there or be square, whatever that means.
Hey, Xpac 12360 fans, I just want to tell you 2 ways that you can support the show to help it grow. First, if you've ever wanted to shout out a surprise message for various occasions from me, all you have to do is visit celebvm.com/Sean Waltman to request a video today. Not only does it support the show, but a portion of the proceeds go to charity. Second, visit ProWrestlingTees.com/Sean Waltman. That's the only place to grab shirts with the X-Pac 12360 logo, Wolfpack, or many other designs. If you pick up a shirt, make sure to tweet us using the hashtag X-Pac12360. That's celebvm.com/Sean Waltman for a personal message from me, X-Pac. And ProWrestlingTees.com/Sean Waltman for X-Pac, Wolfpack, and X-Pac 12360 gear. Thanks for supporting the show. Now let's get back to it. Welcome back to X-Pac 12360, everyone. Joining us on the phone right now. I used to work with this guy back in the Attitude Era. Very cool guy, and I saw him this weekend at the big event, and he gave me his book, and I'm glad he did, because he says some really, really cool things about me in his book. Joining us on the phone right now, one of the Mean Street Posse, Pete Gas. Yeah.
What's up, guys?
Hey,
Thank
man.
you for having me, and it was great seeing you this weekend, bud. It's been a while.
Yeah, man. It was, and originally, I'm trying to remember the first time I'd seen you in a long time. Was it Dallas WrestleMania, or was it before that? I think it was before
that. I think we did an appearance. We both did an appearance in Rhode Island, and I think I don't know if that picture's in the book or not. There's a picture of you're doing a too sweet sign, and I'm just kind of standing there looking dopey.
Well, your book, it's a neat book, and I enjoyed it. I haven't finished it because you just gave it to me this weekend, but it's from your perspective and coming into the business from like an outsider's point of view and be thrown into the mix, man, in the most amazing time ever in wrestling, and damn it, I can't remember what I was about to say.
Well, he was saying earlier that he was a big fan of you, even as the 1-2-3 Kid, before he ever even got to work with you. So then, when he finally got to the WWE or WWF at the time,
that was before he was telling me that before. But anyways, the book is called "Looking at the Lights: My Path from Fan to a Wrestling Heel," and it's got some really cool forwards. Mick Foley, Christian, Vince Russo, and Lisa
Victoria.
Marie Vachon.
It's available on Amazon.com.
Yeah. But anyway, Pete, back to what you were saying, man. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, it's good. I mean, we were fans. I've been a fan since I can remember, and I remember watching you and being a fan of yours. As a 1, 2, 3 kid, and then, when Shane called us and asked us to do a favor, and that was help him put over a match at WrestleMania, and we got to work with you. I give you all the credit in the world. I mean, you were working with a bunch of guys, including Shane, that were very green. I mean, Shane had a little bit more experience, but you were great to us. And it's funny. I was thinking about it. I knew we were doing the interview today, and I was thinking about us and our relationship and how much I care for you and all that. And I thought about it, and I remember how cool you were the first day and how cool you are now. And to be honest with you, bro, it has not changed one bit. I mean, obviously, we got to know each other better, but you've always been a straight-up stand-up guy and cool to me. And that's why when I wrote you a little note in the book, it came from the heart, because it's true. It's how I feel about you. And I mean it. You're one of those guys. I just love you to death, man.
Yeah, it means
really
a lot to me. I'm not trying to get all off on our own little side conversation here, like blowing smoke up each other's ass. But man, when I read the things you wrote about me, man, it made me cry a little bit.
Do you want to read it?
No, I'm not going to do all that. I don't even have the pages bookmarked.
Well, what he wrote to you, wrote to you.
Do you mind if I read it, Pete?
No, absolutely not.
To Sean, thank you for all the help over the years, but more importantly for your friendship. Pete Gas. Yeah. Very cool.
Who gave that little that ain't right. Come on, man.
Oh, that's TK here.
It was nice.
I can say
TMZK over here.
Not to speak for everyone in the room, but I feel the same. Like you're such a cool dude and such a good friend.
But Pete,
I second that.
How long have you guys known Shane? You and Rodney were actually like lifelong friends of Shane's, right?
Yeah, I mean, Rodney knew him a little longer because they were together in junior high. I met them in like the summer going into 9th grade, and when we all got to high school, played football together, we were inseparable after that. And it was, Shane. Let's be honest. Shane's got he's got a lot more zeros in his bank account than Rodney and I, even back then. But Shane, he doesn't act that way. He's a regular guy, and he's always just a guy that got in trouble and acted like a goofball, and we always had a lot of fun. I've always told Shane, even to this day, I've never had a bad time with him, and I mean that. Wow. It's unbelievable.
The thing about Shane is his father made sure he instilled work ethic in Shane. Shane did every job there was to do in WWE from the ground up. And I'm talking about from setting the ring up, refereeing, driving the ring. He did everything. So
he did.
Yes, and that right there, that's something that a lot of people don't understand. And
he was bred to run that business.
Yeah, and Pete, was Shane just as seemingly fearless and like over the top when he was in school with you guys as like the Shane that I experienced?
Without question.
Yeah.
He's it's funny is I always call him an adrenaline junkie, and I really believe that because there used to be there's a dam in Greenwich, not used to be, it's still there, and he used to always jump off the dam, and no one knew where the low points were, the high points were, and Shane he didn't really care. He just jumped.
How high was the dam?
There were just like little things he used to do, and I always tell the story. One time we had a buddy, Mike Kate, and he had a motorcycle, and Vince always said, "Don't ride the motorcycle." And Shane would say, "Okay," and we have to walk down the street in Conyers Farm where Vince lives, and he would go ride the motorcycle. One day, Vince comes up the street with that big barrel chest sticking out, and he's like, "Boys, where's Shane-O?" And we won't stooge on Shane, and all of a sudden we didn't have to, because literally about a minute later, here comes dumbass coming around the corner on a motorcycle. And so we all saw the fear of God, because Vince looked at us and said, "Boys, time to go." And we're like, "Yes, Vince." And we get in the car, and we're all looking in the back window, down the driveway at the front door, and Vince is using Shane's head to open up the front door, just like giving him making him headbutt the door to open it. But that was just it. You know, we used to laugh at everyone else's pain.
The funny thing about that story is this, Pete. Many, many years later, Vince is driving a Boss Haas motorcycle with the 350 cubic inch small block motor in it, and ends up running, like somebody pulls out in front of him, and like he goes flying like 50 feet and ends up cracking his pelvis, and like he even comes to TV and gets out of the wheelchair and won't let anybody see him in his wheelchair. That's how crazy Vince was. Like, wow. But yeah, no. Right. So it's funny, like, you know, do as I say, not as I do, and that spills over into the story of when I was 1, 2, 3 kid, Pete. Shane had a great idea that we would go skydiving, but we just wouldn't tell his mom and dad. You know? So Shane and I and Alundra Blaze, aka Medusa, we went skydiving, and Shane's crazy ass, he did a backward, like a freaking moonsault almost out of the plane. Like, you couldn't even, you had to pry my fingers off the door to get me out of the plane, and he couldn't wait. He's ready to do it again. Well, I was too, but anyway, it was just crazy. But yeah. Yep. Anyways.
But yeah, he's always been like that. I mean, he just he doesn't stop, and he I had a story and it popped out of my head, I guess, because Bradshaw beat the hell out of me a few times, and so my memory slips me. I had a couple other stories. Maybe they'll pop in my head by the time I go, but
they will.
He just doesn't. He's fearless. He really is.
Well, Pete, was there ever a moment where you were like, Shane, don't do this? Did you want to talk him out of anything?
Yes. We were at a party freshman year of college, and I was there, and I was trying to pick up a girl, and I had a hard enough time doing that, and Shane walks in, and him, Rodney, and a bunch of the other guys, and they decided that the party was lame and they wanted to go to a bar because a buddy of ours made us some fake IDs. So they literally picked me up because they wanted me to come, and they picked me up, and we took Shane. Sean, I don't know if you remember this, but Shane's maid had like a lime green Lincoln Town Car. It was the ugliest thing, but Shane used to drive it at times, and we're on the highway going from Greenwich to Port Chester, New York, and Shane jumps out on the roof of the car, and he's surfing like Teen Wolf on I-95 going south. That's no lie. I mean, that's like legit. And I'm sitting in the back seat saying, "This kid's gonna die. Yeah. And he's unbelievable."
And then so when you see like, okay, Shane McMahon is in a helicopter crash, there wasn't even a question as to whether he was okay or not, right?
So yeah, so I see it's on the. I didn't even know. I'm working, and I get my phone starts blowing up about Shane, you know, asking if Shane's okay. So I have no idea what's going on, and I hit the news and I see it. So I called him and I said, well, obviously you're all right because you're talking to me. And he said, yeah, I'm fine. I said, what happened? And he said, well, I was flying after SmackDown. I was flying to the house out in the Hamptons, and all of a sudden I heard a boom, and he looked at the helicopter pilot. The pilot goes, "We're going down," and he said it very calmly, and they were over water. So Shane said, "Okay." So the guy deployed like some, the air, I guess whatever they call the raft that attaches to the whatever they call it.
Yeah.
And they had a safe landing. He jumps out, and he's cool as a cucumber. And the thing is too, he won't sell anything. He could get hurt. Like when he last jumped off the cage against Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
He was hurting, and I called him. He no-sold me as usual. And then I find out he cracked ribs and everything, and I called him back. I said, "Don't kayfabe me, because I know you always do that." And he says, "Yeah, I cracked a couple ribs. I'm a little sore, but I'll be all right."
Yeah, that's pretty much just like his old man, though, when it comes to that.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah. So,
yep.
Man. Hey, I was thinking about some things that I read in your book, and I probably should have them bookmarked so I could go to them. But you're talking about like teamwork and like how it was while you were putting me over huge in your book.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm so glad, because I was just going to lead into this, and you did, so it's like we're dancing now, because I actually was going to just bring this up. So I'm just going to run with it, and you cut me off if you want to add to it. So back in the Attitude Era, it was, from what I understand, it was a lot different now than it was then. we were fighting against WCW and ratings and all that stuff, but the Attitude Era, that locker room had a very team-like atmosphere, and for me to be a guy off the street as a wrestling fan, this is why the book, if anyone's a wrestling fan and you love the Attitude Era, this is a book for you, because you get to live vicariously through another fan. And so I got to have help from DX, with the exception of Billy, because Billy's just a ball buster, but that's another story. But you and Road Dogg would do so much to help me, and literally talk to me and talk to me about how to work as a heel in a tag match, and what to do, and how to cut off the ring, and all the great things about being a great tag team. And I never forgot that, man. And I swear to God, and I got to work. I woke up every day and I jumped out of bed, couldn't wait to get to work. And from having guys like Hunter helping me with punches and little things, and it was so much fun, and having help from Hunter, and then you think about it, DX, the biggest entity in sports entertainment, and they're helping us, the Mean Street Posse, get over and become more valuable to the company. That's huge, man. But you guys didn't have to do that, and that's the thing that I'll never forget, is that it was genuine, and to me that meant everything, and it was very special to me.
Thanks, man. The thing about that is this: there's two. One part is me. I'm only speaking for myself, but I know Road Dogg is the same. We just really enjoy dropping knowledge on people and trying to help everyone out, and so that's the more altruistic side of it. But the selfish part is this: we're at war with WCW, and we can't have anything on our show sucking. And so,
right.
And that's the thing is Pete, you were talking about this earlier, if your guys' deal wasn't any good, Vince wouldn't have had it on the show, and that's the truth. That's the truth,
so before, man. Let's just buzz people that we were talking before the podcast, and I was, we were talking about the book, and the point of the book was the fact that we got a break from, Shane asked us to do him a favor. We didn't come to Shane and say, can we be a part of this? And then we always wanted to be a part of it. And then when we got the opportunity, we made the most of it. And I think that's the gist of the book. And the truth is, if we didn't get a rise out of the crowd, every guy in the locker room wants to get a cheer or a boo from the crowd. If you get no reaction, then you're useless and you go home. But if we didn't work hard and we didn't get that reaction, beforehand, X-Pac and Sean and I were talking, and we both agreed that we wouldn't have been there past the match with Shane versus Sean.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole point of the story. And it's you got a fan a big fan of WWE, and then he gets an opportunity, and how he takes it from that to being a part of one of the highest rated shows when it's the Mean Street Posse versus Briscoe and Patterson, which is one
of the greatest things.
Accomplishment.
Yes. Just, I don't mean to cut you off there, Pete, but
I
just have to tell you that segment with you guys versus Pat and Jerry Briscoe is one of my favorite things, man. And the crowd went ape shit. Went completely
it was unbelievable.
ape shit. Yes. So sorry to cut you off there, man.
No, but I remember the day after that match, Shane, after we became, involved with and got contracts, we weren't allowed to drive with Shane. And Vince and Shane were driving together. We were driving home after a loop. And I remember the phone ringing, and I was driving. Rodney answered, and Shane said, put me on speaker so Gas can hear. And he said, guys, someone here wants to talk to you. And I remember, I get goosebumps every time I say this, because this is the one and only time Vince has ever said this. And he said, boys, he goes, the ratings came out. He said, you guys had the highest rated 15-minute segment in wrestling history on cable. And then he went on to say, "I'm proud of you." We never heard that from him. Never heard it again afterwards.
Hey, man,
but I never heard it. And that is in my head forever.
Well, you know what? That's something that that people in the industry really like. Okay, I'm just going to speak for myself. Like I've said this a bunch of times already. I'm just going to speak for myself. When I came back to the curtain, Pete, from the ring, no matter how good I knew I did, if I didn't get that thumbs up and a smile from Vince coming back to gorilla position, it would kind of break my heart, man. I'm not going to freaking lie to you. You know,
yeah.
So those kind of positive affirmations from the boss, man, that's huge. That's Vince McMahon just said that too, you know. So
right. So for us to never get it, we never got anything like that. Even when we were kids, I mean, we had laughs, we had all that. It wasn't like Hitler with us.
Yeah.
But for us, it was like, you know, to get that because we never got that. And Vince never wanted to show us any special treatment, especially with the boys, because at that time we technically didn't have a lockdown contract because we lost the Loser League Town match, and then that's when we were gone. But you know, we weren't allowed to have action figures. Now if you're in the WWE for, you know, a half a cup of coffee, you got a figure, you got a T-shirt, everything else. You know, there were designs for shirts and stuff. Vince didn't want us to have any of that stuff. We weren't allowed to have access to the stock for for WWE when it was an IPO. There were certain things we just weren't allowed to have because he didn't want to show any favoritism towards us.
yeah, you guys had to pay. You guys had to pay dues that I think a lot of people don't understand. You had to pay, and it was me. It was you and Rodney and Joey Abs. And Joey Abs was actually a Hardy Crew guy. He was from the Carolinas. He wasn't one of your true Mean Street posse from the mean streets of Greenwich.
He wrestled as Venom.
Right, but unfortunately, he had to pay our dues for us, or with us rather, because you know. And I got to tell this story. I wasn't allowed to tell it on the last show I was on, but so I did an appearance back in June, and I sat next to Bob Holly. And this is one of the greatest stories I've heard, and I wish I had it for the book, but unfortunately the book was already done. So I'm going to leave. I grab my remaining books that I didn't sell, and I'm going to leave. I put them in the car. I come back to say my goodbyes. I turn to leave, and Bob Holly grabs my arm, and he pulls me in, and he says, "Hey, I want to tell you something, and I want you to call Rodney on your way home and tell him too." And I was like, "What's that, Bob?" And he goes, "You're one tough son of a bitch." And I started to laugh. And I said, he goes, "I don't know if you know this." He said, "But after you guys came back from the Briscoe and Patterson, basically, when you guys got your contracts," and he goes, "we used to try to see if we could break you guys." He goes, "You know, you guys paid your dues in a different way." I was like, "Yeah, well, that's in the book." I knew we had to pay our dues. He goes, "Yeah, but we tried to break you guys." He goes, "I used to have matches with you, and I was punching you for real." He goes, "I wanted to see if you were going to want to fight me or if you were going to, you know, bitch and moan or whatever you were going to do." And he goes, "God damn," he goes, "you would come back to Gorilla, and you'd be laughing and smiling and you having a good time. You loved it." And I started laughing, and I said, "Bob," I go, "to be honest with you, I knew we had to pay our dues, and I'm not going to say you didn't hurt me because I don't want you to hit me and hurt me, but I said, I'll be honest with you. I said, I had two older brothers that used to beat the hell out of me when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I knew if you complain, you only get a bigger beating. Yeah. And I knew how the business worked. And if you became one of those guys, then the whole locker room's all over you." Yeah. And he goes, "Well, he goes, me, Bradshaw, Benoit, we all used to try to see if we could break you guys." And he goes, "None of us were able to do it." He goes, "So you guys have my respect." And that meant so much to me.
The truth
you
is,
have no idea.
I can imagine. Yeah, for sure. And it wasn't really my thing. Wasn't like trying to run guys up. That I don't get that. Like, I guess I understand why some people had that mentality. It just wasn't mine. I was always more of like, let's try to just nurture these guys, and yeah, they have to pay their dues, but let's not necessarily try to hurt them. But and that reminds me of something I said to Shane before our WrestleMania match. I'm like, if I don't really bring it, man, everyone's gonna just kind of, roll their eyes and taking it easy on the boss's son. So Shane was like, oh, bring it, and
yeah.
And Pete, I kicked Shane McMahon harder than I think I've ever kicked another human being in my life.
Good, you should have kicked him now.
And listen, you can look at some of the parts of that WrestleMania match, and there were live rounds being thrown, especially when we had that weight belt in play.
Yeah.
Yep. And I remember you guys being involved in the match. And
can I talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
Do you mind if I cut you off?
Yeah, because
I'm sorry.
Let me just tell you this. Let me just tell you this, Pete.
Go ahead.
Okay. When we did that little part there live during the show, I was throwing live rounds because I didn't know whether you guys knew how to sell or not, so I just had to start throwing shit. I just had to hit you to make sure you went down.
Right. So I didn't. Again, this goes back to being a fan, and Rodney and I had to grab each one of your arms while Shane went at you, and then you were gonna break loose, and you elbowed me with your right arm across the chest, and I was told to bow up my chest, and you were gonna hit me hard. It doesn't matter because it doesn't hurt there anyway.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I remember saying to myself, I remember looking back when I got up, and I said, "This is just total instinct from watching the show, being a fan." I basically said, "F it. I'm throwing myself back. And if I hit someone behind me, so be it. I'm selling it and making him look good." I remember saying this in my head. And you hit me with an elbow. If you ever go back and watch, I throw myself back into the seats, and then it go forward a couple minutes later, and I'm still selling that elbow didn't hurt, but I sold that elbow shot, and I remember Lawler in the match going, "Pete Gas is hurting," or whatever he said, and I'm still sitting there rubbing it and wincing. And I remember just saying, just keep selling it, because I knew it just made you look that much better.
It did,
and it was just an instinctual thing.
It was a really good spot in the match that really, really made me look good, man. And originally, I've told this before, but when I agreed to do that match, part of the me agreeing to do it was that Shane would have to put me over. So eventually things happened to where Triple H had to turn heel, or was turning heel, so it only made sense that came out and screwed me. So I ended up putting Shane over. So we added all those little things into the match where
Right.
I got over on you guys to help build me up stronger before I got beat.
Right, keep you strong.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I remember during that match, Hunter actually getting after me because I wasn't selfish enough. So there was actually things added to it that I didn't, that I originally didn't necessarily want to do for myself. But I appreciate.
See, that's
Hunter.
why I really wish there's two regrets in my career that I wish. One is that we got to work with Hunter as against him, and got to learn from him, because I to me, I think he's absolutely brilliant. And we did vignettes with him, and he called me a buckethead and all sorts of stuff, and that was fun and stuff. But actual working in the ring, he would teach us in the ring with punches, but to actually learn in the ring and stuff like that would have been amazing. And the other thing was, when we first started, we took a stunner from Stone Cold in Madison Square Garden on a house show. And we came out with The Rock, and it was a huge thrill. We got a stunner from Stone Cold, beers poured on us, and then The Rock came in and gave us a double people's elbow in Madison Square Garden. It doesn't get better than that as far as a jobber goes, but I just wish, and then Stone Cold wasn't happy with the way we took the stunner, and unfortunately, I think because of that, we didn't get to work with him as much as, I don't think he wanted to work with us. And one of my things on my bucket list is one day just apologizing, getting to say I'm sorry to him, because I really wish I had the opportunity to, because I think people would have loved to have seen him kick our ass in every city in the country, to be honest with you.
Pete, you probably should, because I know for a fact he still remembers that. He was mentioning it when I brought your name up. He was mentioning it. Oh, he took the worst stunner ever. Just kidding.
Get out of here. You're full of- I know you are.
It couldn't have been nearly as bad as the first one Vince ever took. That's for sure.
Oh man.
I know.
And here's something that I like to do when somebody's taking something of mine. I don't just assume they know how to take it. I explain to them in full detail how I want them to take it, and it works out a lot better that way.
Right.
Anyways, so hey, we're gonna have to wrap up shortly, but I do want to talk about you went to OVW, right?
No, I didn't get to go to OVW. I was in Memphis.
Oh, okay.
I worked for Memphis. Yeah, I was with Lawler at Power Pro Wrestling and also Memphis Championship Wrestling.
Gotcha.
And then eventually I got sent out to work with Savio, which was awesome, at out in Puerto Rico for IWA.
You learn a lot. Guys learn a lot in Puerto Rico. You learn a different way to work there. A little bit more of an intuitive way of working. Not so much, hey, everything's got to be scripted and like you listen to the people. You learn how to listen to the people down there.
Yeah. It's funny because I did it when the book first came out. I did JR's podcast, and I was dying to know why the hell they sent me to Puerto Rico other than to empty my bank account, and or at least part of it. So when we got done with the interview, we were talking and reminiscing and stuff, and I said, "Hey JR, I got to ask you this question. Why did you guys send me of that whole roster in Memphis? Why was I sent to Puerto Rico?" And he goes, "Pete, I know the answer to this, and I'm not lying to you." And he said, "We saw money in you." He said we saw the improvement in you, and we saw the fact that you had a look. He says you were an ex-football player, and I had gotten down. When I first started, I was an offensive lineman body. I was about 285, and I was down to about 240, and I don't know if you remember what I was starting to look like. I actually kind of got myself in decent shape, but he said, we saw money in you. And he goes, when you see money in we thought, so they wanted to teach me to do a different style, and they wanted Savio to work with me and to not be able to, they wanted me to not talk during a match. They wanted me to just go. And I remember Percy, Paul Bearer, coming out to scout things and give a report back to the company, and he said, Pete, I don't see why they wouldn't bring you up soon. And then next thing you know, probably about a month later, I got cut, so I don't know what happened.
Oh, and then you just kind of drifted off into the sunset for a while, huh?
Well, I was told by Dennis Brent that I was going to be getting Bob Clark, that I was going to get a call from what was his name? Dr. Death, Steve Williams, was out in Japan. And I was going to get a call, and they were going to set things up, and never got a phone call from him. And then I was going to do indies, and then Jeff Jarrett was going to do a tour of Europe and then Australia, and then 9/11 hit, and he called me and said, it's canceled. We're not doing it. And, that broke my heart because in my heart, I was like, all right, just stay involved. You never know if they're ever going to call you back. Maybe something will come up, because Shane was still involved and all that stuff, and I wanted to, but indies weren't really doing much, and nobody was paying anything, and I didn't really care. I had a good job, so I didn't care about the money part of it, but they just weren't doing many shows.
But what's it like? But Pete, what's it like? What was your experience like going from that to just go, okay, now I'm going to go back and be a civilian again?
It sucked.
Yeah.
It was depressing. It was very sad. It was you go through a bit of depression, and I thought about it long and hard, and I think the hardest part about the business is, you love the roar of a crowd, whether they're booing you or cheering you and all that, but it's the locker room. I think you miss the locker room most of all, especially that locker room of the Attitude Era. Yeah. I think that to me was, I compare it, like, I remember being in college. I played college football at UConn, and I loved the locker room. But this locker room I loved more because I saw you guys. There was no off season. There was no summer break. We were together every week. Yeah. You know what I mean? And to me, it was just a special group, and I just, to me that was the hardest thing. Was the biggest thing I miss is the locker room.
Have you ever thought about having matches again?
Sean, I told Shane, and Shane knows this. I said, if you ever called me, I said my bags would be packed and I would be out the door in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I said, I will take every damn finishing move in the company if I have to. I said, I don't care. It's just a love of the business. It's something that I loved it before I even knew Shane, and I loved it even more so now. So, it's two different levels. So,
were you bitter at all?
I watch it religiously.
What's that, bud? Were you ever bitter at all, like after you were gone? Like, was there any of that?
No.
Good.
No.
I'm glad to hear that.
When I got released, I went from Puerto Rico. I was dating a girl in Alabama. I got my car. I literally drove straight up to Stanford, and I drove home to my mom's. And then the next day, I walked into Shane's office, and afterwards, Shane said, "I thought you were going to punch me in the face." And I walked up to Shane and I put my hand down, and I said, "Thank you for the best 3 years of my life. I can never repay you." And
That's
Sean,
right.
I'm still reaping the benefits from it. It was 3 years. I maybe won 4 matches my entire career on television. Maybe, I don't even know if there's that many. And I loved every bit of it. It was a blast. It was a great ride. I appreciate every moment. I love him. I love the McMahon family, and that's why how could you have a bad word to say? Unfortunately, Rodney wasn't the same as me.
Yeah.
And, they had some bad, Rodney didn't take his calls, and then by the time Rodney wanted to talk to him, Shane's feelings were hurt, and it's unfortunate. And, Rodney and I had a falling out years before that, and Shane's the one that brought us together.
Yeah.
He actually, good story, he brought us to a strip club, and he made us sit at the bar, and he says, "I'm going to get a lap dance. You guys figure this thing out." We weren't allowed to leave. And then we all went back to his house, to Shane's house, and drank beer and played pool after we made up. But I tried to do the same thing. I invited them both to my wedding and sat them at the same table on purpose, but it didn't work. And it's sad because they're good. They were great friends,
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of people, like, Pete, a lot of people, when they leave, or when they're no longer, when they're let go from WWE, they're bitter, and they blame everyone, they got screwed over, or this, it's always somebody else's fault. And I really like your attitude about the whole thing, because, really.
Sean, the way I have to look at it is, the thing happened. It wasn't supposed to happen, but it did.
Yeah.
We made the most of it. It was supposed to be 3 weeks. It turned into 3 years. And we made the most of something that was very special in my life. And my glass is definitely half full. And I love the company, and I still watch the product, and I follow it. I'm still that fan that was a fan before I met Shane, and it's awesome, bro.
And you know what?
If they call.
You guys really contributed to the show. It wasn't like you were just, added to the show because you were, Shane's high school friends. You guys contributed and added to the show and made it a better show. Pete, what do you have going now?
Well, I have the book. The book's been out since March.
And where can we get it? Where can we get it?
You can get it at Amazon. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. It's called Looking at the Lights. All you gotta do is just put in the search engine or whatever, you put in Pete Gas, it'll come up, Pete Gas book, and it's right there for you. It's like $17 right now. It's on sale. It's a great holiday gift. But I work for WB Mason. They're great to me. I'm looking to transfer down to Jacksonville, Florida, and start another chapter of my life with my wife.
Yeah.
Wife number 2, Prince Albert. Matt Bloom always tells me, he lets me know every time I talk to him that I outkick my coverage because she is gorgeous. There's a picture of her in the book.
He's one
So
to talk.
it's always he is one to talk. You're right, but it's funny because I kind of turn things around and turn to his wife and say that she outkicked her coverage to make him feel good. So
no doubt.
Yeah, I put him over all the time. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to a new life, hopefully in Florida, and that's it. You know, hopefully. You know, you never know. You never say never in the business, but if you ever call, I'll definitely come. But at 47 years old, but I don't think it'll happen.
Would you ever entertain doing independent wrestling?
I would do it. Yeah,
Yes.
I would do it. Why not? I feel great. You know, I'm down on my weight, and I feel good.
You look good, man. You look really good.
Thanks. I get up every morning at 3 a.m. and I drive to Connecticut from Long Island. So I'm looking forward to moving to Jacksonville, hopefully, and once I get that transfer approved, and then I could actually have some time to work out and get even healthier. So
Pete,
it'll be good.
Pete, real quick, what is your where can people find you on social media?
I am Pete Gas is my Twitter handle. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Pete Gasparino, my real name. So, but yeah, it's great, and I can't thank you guys enough, Sean. I love you, bro,
Love
and
you
I
too.
appreciate everything you've ever done, and I just want everyone publicly to know that, because the man that has this show is definitely a guy that is a genuine person, friend, and has been since day one to me and a lot of others, and I can't begin to tell you how much I'm in your corner, bud, and I'm so glad to see you're doing good, and I love you.
I love you too, Pete. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today, man. Have a great day, man.
Thank you. You
Cool,
too.
man.
Thanks,
You
Pete.
too.
Wow. All
Thank
right.
you, guys.
I enjoyed that.
That was awesome.
Yeah. I got this message this morning from a 203 area code, and I'm like thinking, who is it? Like, somehow it's not programmed into my phone, and so I'm thinking it's either PJ, Just Incredible, or somebody from the office, you know, from Stanford or something. And so yeah, it was Pete, and it reminded me, oh yeah, I just saw him, and I have his book, and I want to have him on the show, and so there he was.
That's awesome.
Perfect
Yeah.
timing.
And he says they'll do indie wrestling. So you
Yes.
versus Pete Gas at bar wrestling, or
Well, I want to see. You know, I just think that, you know, Attitude Era wrestling fans would like to see Pete
Absolutely.
Gas.
I think at a
Every time-
WrestleCon or something like that, if they did Mean Street
Yeah.
Posse back together, that would draw
ever
huge.
since Shane's come back, anytime he's like, oh, I've got a surprise, or I've got some ideas, or I've got some teammates, everyone just like, Mean Street Posse's coming back, like they're
Yeah.
excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, hey, also, before we go, Red Star. I want to shout out to. Okay.
Not the best arm.
Star One, STARR1. They make some incredible edible products infused with THC, and they're for medical purposes. And I just want to thank them for dropping some of their product off for me to try. Wow, some of it was pretty strong. Anyways,
I think you have purple and blue in your hand, and you're used to the red.
Yeah.
So they just make all different potency of stars.
So I'm on my Twitter account. I'm going to put them over and then put where you can find them online. And thank you, Star One, for your Red Star gummies and Purple Star gummies. Oh, and Sour Blue Star gummies as well. So, and also the Plume Vapes, who I'm wearing their shirt right now.
There's a theme.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, anything you guys want to touch on before we get out
Well,
of here?
Saturday, November 11th, you're at Real Pro Wrestling, Red, White, and Bruised in a tag team match, and then you're off to Australia.
I don't think I'm there now.
Oh.
No?
No, I think that was switched. I went and did the big event instead.
Oh, instead.
Yeah.
Scrap that. So Australia tour coming up November 24th through 27th. Melbourne on Friday the 24th. Adelaide Saturday the 25th. Brisbane Sunday the 26th. And Sydney, Australia Monday the 27th.
Yeah.
You're
and
gonna wrestle Austin Aries, yeah?
we're going to be a team, I think. Yeah, and I have a big shipment of shirts coming.
Hell yeah.
Some really cool shirts. The one with the mashup logo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Can't
yeah.
wait.
So, I'm gonna be bringing those to Australia with me. I'm gonna leave some of them here though.
Nice.
But, all right, everyone. What else is going on before we go? Anything? Sundown Motel over there.
Yeah, that's it.
Hey man, I just like my sincerest condolences, man, on Bill. Am I okay to talk about that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, man. I sent a tweet out the other day just talking about just sending some love out to everyone that's lost a pet recently, and Bill has. And
We're part of a family.
oh shit, I shouldn't have started talking
Way
about
to end
that.
it on a positive note.
Oh no, but
Very
I just
emotional episode this was.
No, I just, man, it hurt me, man. My heart hurt for you, dude.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks for the kind words.
Yeah, and so that's why Bill was gone recently. I think that's the main reason, right? So, and TK, any last words?
You can find us at AfterBuzz TV, also The Real X-Pac for Twitter, IG Xpac12360, and you can find me on everything at TK Trinidad.
Cool.
Everybody else has their.
Yeah.
Find me on Twitter at Jimbo in the Booth. I'll be at Bar Wrestling tomorrow.
And you guys can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at _Denise Salcedo. And make sure to check out my YouTube channel. I have a new series called The Wrestling Girl, and it's on my YouTube. You can just search up Denise Salcedo.
All right. Find me at The Real X-Pac. We'll see you right here next week on Xpac 12360 AfterBuzz TV. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, Sean Waltman, producers Jimbo Frank and TK Trinidad, managing producer of AfterBuzz TV Wrestling Mark Donica, and the entire Xpac 12360 staff, we would like to thank you for tuning in. Like us on Facebook, rate and comment on iTunes and YouTube. Follow Xpac on Twitter at TheRealXpac and email us at xpac12360show@gmail.com. This has been a presentation of the AfterBuzz TV Network. Buzz you later!